I'm not going to go on for long, but I'm not sure everybody knew this. I lost a daughter 6 years ago, so this particular topic was really interesting for me. This may get dark. Pull your socks up. I'm going to start with a couple pieces out of Sidewalk Indian. This is called Tracking the Enemy. It's such an exhausting thing. The woman's cheek, an unknown cheek, pressed against the burning wall of her house or heaving pavement, and this violence of denied violence. The psychopathic edges that everyone has in some measure, and here it's permitted, must keep them startled. Send them on like the Bosnian woman hiding in London, her child wearing donated clothes, handmade for another child in California, the color and embroidery chosen particularly by a woman's hand, an unknown child, another touch sent on and probably sent on again, because the cotton was good, sturdy stuff. The burn scar on a woman's arm, a child's arm too deep to be soup or anything nourishing, unknown eyes, but meeting over evidence of a lesson provided if not learned. Unknown eyes, oddly the same, brown with flecks of green, another lesson, our shared genetic textile puzzle might offer someday, or even on that one, a thing moved on, a touch and touch, tracking the enemy, so tiring, this skin handed on, handed over, its sturdy stuff, a similar palm print, a comforting collection of words, a meditation for headache in small yellow flowers, an unknown hand, an unknown gene, an unknown symbol of protection in silk thread on a child's jacket. Good sturdy stuff. Our paths have crossed. It's so tiring tracking an enemy. When B was murdered, I wrote a chapbook and didn't publish it, but there were a couple of them put in this. When performing grief, before the parasite itself has time to emerge from its initial shell, light candles, because there's something about fire, and people will worry if you put the stove burners on and watch them too closely. Wear something soft. Pick music you can play on a loop in your head. If you don't, other things will play there, and it's better to have control. Mumble gracious words. Carry lip balm, a mug of tea, a shawl, something with fringe to fuss with, something crush-proof. Mumble gracious words. 2. Tragedy may or may not have something to do with goats, competition, Greeks, actors' masks, but certainly has something to do with the stage. The word keeps sticking in my eyelashes, on my fingers, and people line up to gather what they think they own of the grief. And I pick at the newly dry skin under my right eye, and people look to see if I'm doing well, and I'm not. The shape of change keeps distracting me. The idea of how two abbreviated cells can become someone, how the empty space of that someone makes patterns that twist too, that move out so quickly I can't get high enough to see the pattern, and I look up to find supper and car rides to empty places and concern, none of which I can use. 3. Anguish, as a word, comes from mental or physical tightness, some sort of constriction. The end isn't the answer, like a handwritten equation that gets smaller until x equals, even if it's represented as a set of values between. But I understand why it's easy to think of her like that, as if there are no beginnings or endings and ripples don't go everywhere. I keep finding them in the toes of my shoes, hiding among my beads. I combed a handful of them out of my hair last night before falling to sleep. I'd keep them pressed in a book or in a canning jar near the snap beans, That might be right. Keep them. But they just keep coming, so I tip them out the window into this orange morning where they can run into whatever places they still have to explore. And this is actually directly in response. And I'm not as good as this tech as having it in my hand would suggest. So I might actually be about to play you a commercial for something horrible, which would lighten the mood. This is called Parent and Child Cycle, and it actually was written while looking at these pieces. I didn't take them individually, because there's just too much great work on these walls, just in case people hadn't really taken a look. I think my current favorite is the Mia Farrow, but... 1. When the first pain hit, I went up on my toes. Birth will dance you. And all of the people that will breathe at you, speaking for myself, they were of exactly no help. My son and I, we did that dance together, became two people. It's another kind of storytelling. 2, we took the stereotypes in our hands and tore them up. The worlds we've created between us, parent and child, human and human, you curled there, whispered stories of healing into my fever dreams. We have adventured. 3, cleaning Grandpa's desk, we found the Mary of Czestochowa, her black skin rendered in silver metal, Isis by any other name. Still brought her lover back from the dead and claimed a son from him. Isis, of sky and wisdom, wrapped in blue as I have been, just feeling the heartbeat, the damp skin, the wonder of a new person. 4, we carefully mark the places where the world changes, pack our borders, our toothbrushes, walking shoes, rewritten in every watershed, every story shed. Children of corn walking north. The sons of corn performed the magic as they were taught, and the people were fed. We are dusted with pollen. We are walking north. 5, the child shows me the mark of the scorpion on his leg, and I show him the mark of the spider on mine. We have walked dangerous miles, he and I, separate parts of the same story. The gods took a handful of corn flour, some blood, and we were born, danced, went up on our toes. You might have been born differently, but this is our story. 6, children in cages, disprayer. And genetic memory offers me panic. Stolen children, the sacred geometry shattered. We carry our borders. We who are blood and corn, we reach across rivers. We call to our cousins. We burn the copal. 7, this part of the poem isn't written yet. We will have to write it together.